This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Is this plea deal that the prosecution gave Bryan Kohberger, is this going to backfire down the road? Experts are warning that this plea deal strategy could backfire. And they are considering, comparing this and contrasting this with what's going on right now with the Menendez brother case. So this is an expert. He's, sounding the alarm that this plea deal strategy is a dangerous, calculated, long game. Let's listen in.
Dr. Chris Mohanty here, weighing in on the Idaho murder plea bargain agreement in which the offender was allowed to make a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. I have a number of concerns about this, not the least of which is that all victims' families were not adequately consulted for their thoughts and feelings about it. And in particular, some of the commentary that they had is especially relevant. The offender did not have to give any confession or explanation or narrative of what actually happened. So when the families raised the concern of, well, what if he alleges that somebody else was involved? What if he does that down the road? These are concerns. We don't know what actually happened other than what the evidence thus far has shown.
And I agree with this expert. I think that it's very troubling that he is not being forced to allocute to what he did, because he could get a very empathetic book deal. He could get a very empathetic book deal with her, and then or some type of sympathetic, like what the Menendez brothers got on Netflix, and then end up getting his sentence commuted in some way or reduced.
The other problem is the whole, waiving rights to appeal. That's basically nonsense, because at some point laws change, case law changes, and who knows, someday it may be unconstitutional for a person to waive their rights of appeal. So the idea that this is, a done deal, I believe that this was kicked down the road by the prosecution. I think they took the easier, softer way out. I think it's problematic. I think they could have done a heck of a lot better job on the details of said plea bargain agreement. The other problem is,
and a lot of people are struggling with the details, right? That he wasn't forced to allocute. The families aren't getting the answers. Now, two of the families are very happy with this, and two of the families are not. The two families that are not happy with this are the Gonzalez family and the Cornoto family, have both spoken out and just feel like this is not enough. They have questions. This potential for a sympathetic book deal, this is not just a hypothetical in the future. This is happening potentially now.
As time goes on, these kinds of things morph and evolve. We've seen a lot of cases that down the road, a new law comes up and so forth that leads to revisiting sentencing decisions. And this guy has not, tied himself to a statement of what actually happened. So down the road, he could make up something and at that point tell it to some news person or somebody making a movie, a TV production, and then all this sympathy, will come for him potentially. Maybe he gets benefit in other ways from it. And I think it's important to tie him to a story of what actually happened, vet that story, as opposed to what's happened here. I think what's happened here is that this offender's playing the long game. And someday, I believe that he'll capitalize upon that opportunistically.
Remember, Bryan Kohberger has his master's degree in criminology. He understands how the law works. He understands how the legal system works. And Ann Taylor, who's his attorney, looked as happy as could be at the plea hearing. So, I do wonder if he's thinking, 10 years, 20 years down the road, and he looks at something like the Menendez case where these two did away with their parents, and now people are like, oh, but bad things happen to them, and there's no evidence of this. This is just them saying that. But it is concerning that he's not being tied to a story, even in writing, with what I just shared with you, which is his confession. He's not being tied to a story.
This plea bargain, I believe, was ill-conceived and a real problem.
If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Give this a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. And I look forward to seeing you next time.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I've been feeling weird, I can't seem to focus good enough. Nothing's really clear, sometimes it could be a little tough. I just need to feel like the end's in sight for me, but let's be really real, anxiety can foggy all this stuff. I've been feeling weird, I can't seem to focus good enough. Nothing's really clear, sometimes it could be a little tough. I just need to feel like the end's in sight for me, but let's be really real, anxiety can foggy all this